Hey guys, Mike here. So, about what a day in the market, and this is one of those days when you look at it and you say, yep, I see what he keeps saying about the market using the news to move it where it wants to move it, grabbing liquidity, and then pushing it back to where it wants to go, right? Because here we are with the hot CPI print, which we'll get into and stuff. Again, CPI still going up, okay, inflation still going up, and the market dumps it, and then what's it do? Recover. Hits a certain level. Now, we'll answer a question somebody asked me in the morning news brief. I usually put in levels to watch, whatever it is, and I'll show you how I came up with the level I put in this morning, which was coincidentally the level it ended up holding there after it finally sold down for what it wanted to before it recovered. Again, we'll go into some other stocks like Tesla. What do we talk about? I said it like 10 times yesterday. Don't forget, we're oversold on every lower time frame, which I will show you what almost all the time happens with Tesla when that happens. And I said, if Tesla goes, what's not going to go? Nvidia's not going to go. They don't go hand in hand. So we'll look at that. And a couple other charts. Something very interesting with Palantir as well. Now, looking at the CPI data here, you can see 3% year over year versus 2.9. Core came in at 3.3 versus 3.1. So again, still tends to be stubborn. Most of this is, once again, something that can't be fixed, which is housing. Okay, still can't fix that kind of data. Also, car insurance, stuff like that is making everything. Eggs were up ungodly amount. And then when you go over to the month-over-month terms of CPI, you're talking about 0.5% versus 0.3%, core 0.4 versus 0.3. And again, you go over here, you look at this. It's going up, right? Every single month going up, okay? So no shocker, right? I think, and again, the market uses it to move the market wants to move it because the market's not the economy, okay? I don't care that half the country don't have $1,000 and they're getting crushed by eggs being up 50%, milk up, and everything else up. They don't care about that, okay? They don't care about you, don't care about me, all right? It's a casino, and you'll see this is what normally happens. Where does the money go? Well, it leads the way. Mag 7, if you want to add in Avgo, Mag 8. But why? What do you see the 10-year doing? Goes up over 2%. I mean, up over 2%. So huge spike in the 10-year right here. We'll pull back out. Again, it's up against resistance. We'll see if it's a hold. We have more data coming out tomorrow which we'll look at, which could push it right back down. It is the PPI, which is the preferred inflation gauge for the Fed. Don't forget, Jerome Powell is, yapping his gun for 2 hours. This was after the print came out. Funny thing is, hardly anybody even asked about it. That's what's shocking about it. And I'll talk about that in just a minute. But of course, what does this mean? They push rate cuts back even more. We went from June, now we're in October before they project a rate cut. So that means higher what? Borrowing costs. Who's that affect more than anybody else? Small companies. Look at this. The annual interest rate paid on small business short-term loans bounced to 9.4. So between 9 and 10% now. Look, pre-pandemic. You're sitting in between like 6 and 7.5. Before that, around like 5 to 6. And you're setting up between 9 and 10. Which, of course, like we talked about, if we have a hot CPI print, which one's going to suffer more? It's going to be IWM. Where's money going to go? It's going to go somewhere. They're going to flow into mega caps. That's what they're going to do because they actually make money off higher rates. Okay, so they don't really care about that. And again, it's just more of a safe haven. You look over at PPI coming out tomorrow. It's all over the place. You don't know. Sometimes it's above, sometimes it's below, sometimes it's right at it. So we will find out tomorrow what's going to happen. Again, this right here could send the 10-year back down, send IWM back up, send the markets back up, all that fun stuff. But what it's showing is it even comes in hot. Just because the market sells down, what's happening right now? All those dips are getting bought up. Still getting bought up. That's what's happening. Anything to do with tariffs getting bought up, anything to do with obviously CPI getting bought up. And don't forget, the market has shown in the past that it can go up on hot CPI readings. Just look back in 2024, you'll see that. Okay, it has some really good times. The market it don't care about that kind of stuff. I'm serious. It just looks at it and goes, okay, here's where liquidity is. Here's where it's up here. Here's when we're going to go grab it, and then we're going to push back up. All right, that's just the way it is. Okay, and so we'll see where this data is going to push us around tomorrow. And again, if you look at this SPY, I mean, we've been sitting in this downtrending channel, just going bing, 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 like a ping pong. Qs are getting wedged, which we'll look at in a minute. But, and again, never, ever waste your time watching Jerome Powell testify or watching Congress. And I'll be honest with you, because one, it'll depress you. When you see some of these incompetent people, I cannot believe they get elected. It is a shame. There's some guy from Texas I was listening to today. He was like dumb as a box of rocks. I couldn't believe it. I was like, man, this man is slow. He's a congressman? And then right after him was another one. I was like, oh, how do these people get elected? It must be money. It must be who they know. I just can't believe it. Maybe they're better at speeches than they are up there. And the fact they have staffs, which tax dollars pay a lot of money for. And I mean, this one guy sounded like a total moron. I mean, I'm being kind in saying that when he was talking. Jerome Powell even finally said, "Sir, I'll be more than happy to spend some time with you to explain this to you," because the dude was lost. I mean, just lost. I don't know what he was doing. But the fact that's a congressman, and then, oh, don't get me started on Maxine Waters. I can't stand listening to her. I mean, again, not a political channel, but, oh, does anybody like listening to her? I mean, how this woman has been in office, I think, before I was born. I mean, I'm not a spring chicken, but she's been up there at least since I was a kid, still getting reelected. And you hear her talking, you're just like, oh my goodness, that's a shame. Don't ever watch those things. Don't waste your life. I wouldn't do it if I didn't have this channel, but I got to talk about that kind of stuff. But anyway, the number I came up with this morning, because I do this morning news brief, and I put in here, I said, here's the CPI data, blah, blah. Now we'll get to see if dip buyers come in today and hold 598 on the spot. And so 598, right? So, and again, it's 598-ish. Remember, it's not an exact line or anything. But you can see we came down. I think the low was like 598.55 or something like that. And I looked at it, and I was looking at this wick right here is what I was looking at. And then noticing we had held this area before. What else? 50 moving averages right there. Held it the last two times we came down and bounced on it. I like Confluence personally. Also, I knew we'd be in a discount because we're coming past the 0.5 fib, right? Also, I like to go over to ES to confirm this. And when I looked at it, I was like, well, this area right here, we'll see if it holds, because this area is held twice. The last two times they tried to like push us down on news and stuff, it's held. And so, that's another reason this lines up with that 598-ish area right there. And so when you're looking at stuff like this on news, you look for the higher points, you look for the lower points, and this is how you'll come up with these levels, right? It's not magic or anything else. And you can see we came right into it, boom, bounce once again. There we go. And pretty much just grinded up all day, especially on NQs, because they started moving into tech, right? Started moving into tech, especially the big boys. And Tesla, of course, had a big day, which we'll talk about in a minute. And we go over and look at the S&P real quick. Again, this will probably change tomorrow, but you see, it looks like it's like wedging, right? It keeps bouncing off this trend line right here. That makes 4 touches right there. And so they're just kind of wedging this thing in, waiting for a move. It looks like, a move to the upside. But again, if PPI comes out crazy, the market says, well, we don't like that, we want to move back down, take more liquidity, that's what it's going to do. But when you look, it's not far off from that trend line. 0.55, next level's 0.70, next level is 1.14, that's all-time highs, right? To the downside, if we can hold that same area which we came down in today, okay, that's not very far down either. All right, around 598.54. We'll put a line right there. And so, that's to the downside. That's what we're looking at, 598.54, and then from there, pushing up to that trend line. Watch that dark pool level, 606.55, still got that up there and stuff. And so I'll watch for that on SPY tomorrow. And then look at the Qs. I mean, you can tell they're still wedging this thing. And it looks like the same thing. It's almost like flagging, right? Like it wants to try to get this breakout if they keep buying every dip, every dip, every dip. And so, we're just going to have to wait and see. And the Qs, remember what happened last time? The SPY was stronger and the Qs took over. If this inflation data comes in tomorrow higher than what they expected again, and headline CPI is higher than what they expected to do, you can see a shift right back into the Qs, which has been what? Weaker. Remember, it didn't set an all-time new high. And so this is just something we got to watch on the Qs. IWM, of course, we said would get beat down the worst, and it did. And you can see right here, it actually held up way better than I thought it would. I mean, it wasn't even down almost 1% today. I thought it'd be down way more than that with that print. But once again, they pushed it down, started grinding it back up almost all day. This will have plenty of resistance right here. So tomorrow, it could explode through this if that data comes in less than expected and really push and the 10-year drops. And then we pull up here, we'll draw this line back in here. And you can see, I mean, it's going to be resistance, but if it breaks through that, then yeah, it's heading back up to 226.98, okay, 227 right there. We'll stay right there. But then again, if we come back down, we talked about this yesterday, if 222 breaks, going to 220. So again, just watch the 10-year, and you can see, this data is going to affect IWM more than anything else. Money will rotate out of IWM, start rotating in the Q, rotating into big tech, all that fun stuff, if that's the case, and inflation wants to stay up here. Now, QQW, another one, just getting wedged in here. You can see this trend line up here, got third, fourth touch today. Again, looks like it's trying to flag. If this breaks up, then we're going to 133.68 and breaking it. That's new all-time highs, okay? Because the market tends to do what? They want to head into tech as soon as inflation data starts looking all weary and stuff like that and pushing that up versus the other sectors, because inflation does affect the other sectors, okay? You heard like Kraft Heinz talking about that today and stuff. Now, Tesla, we talked about this. Look, oversold on the 15-minute. oversold on the 30-minute, oversold on the 1 hour, oversold on the 2 hour, and last but not least, oversold on the 4 hour. So you get oversold on that many different time frames. Guess what's going to happen? Most likely, you're going to get a bounce. Because remember, the news wasn't great today, right? I mean, they actually had some news come out today where Republicans said they're debating putting a $1,000 tax on new EV sales. So now they're debating on getting rid of the $7,500 tax credit and also adding a $1,000 fee charge when you buy the car. And so, not great for EVs. But of course, Tesla was oversold. So, boom, it bounces. Now, where are we going from there? That's what we got to find out. When you look at this right here, and it's actually a much bigger day than you think. Because in pre-market, this thing dropped again down to 320. And so it wasn't just, at one point in time, they were up like 5.5%. It wasn't just 5.5%. From that bottom right there, if you measure that out, it's almost an 8% day for Tesla, which is a huge move up. Okay, and we'll look a little more detail at this. But when you come over here, you know, that trend line is going to mean something right there. Okay, I'm going to show you what I'm talking about in just a second with that trend line. It's more of a shorter term trend line. But we need to get above it. Right now, we are above the 100 moving average, which we got below yesterday. What was going on in NVIDIA? Nothing. All right, that's what we talked about. If Tesla's moving, especially a day like today, NVIDIA is probably not going to do anything. But it did hold 130, I believe it was, which was key for NVIDIA. Now, going back over to Tesla, when we move up, we got to break this trend line right here, fill this gap. So, you know, 351.73 is what you're looking to get broke above on this one. That can lead to 362.05. And it's not going to surprise me. I mean, seriously, because you got to think and take a big view out on this. This thing is down 33% in 55 days. That is a big drop. Okay, and it's been in this downtrend going back to December, right? So 2.5 months now. It's coming in these areas, which should be support. And it also filled that gap we talked about yesterday, just FYI. And that's where you got the bounce from at 4 a.m. Fill that gap. And when you look at that short-term trend line right there, you can see we finally got another touch at around 330, I believe it was, and immediately sold off like 2%. So as soon as we got that touch, bam, down we go. So that trend line means something. So if it breaks above that trend line, it's going to get a big push up, most likely fill that gap right there between 350, 355, and then move to 362 if that's the case. If not, we break back down to 100. Guess what? See you later. Now, looking at Palantir, we did get a touch of that trend line finally. Sold down. We're still just kind of consolidating, right? This is that rubber band effect. So we're consolidating. This thing can still move up. 125 is your next level to watch. But one thing about Palantir is interesting is these three stocks move together now. And this happens sometimes. HIMS, Palantir, Oklo. Oklo moves in much larger percentages, as you can see. I think it's more of a low float stock, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember correctly. And then HIMS and Palantir kind of move somewhere similar when it comes to percentages. But you can see when Palantir is heading down, HIMS is heading down, so is Oklo. When Palantir is going up, Oklo is going up, HIMS is going up. It's not one leading the other, so to speak. But again, you can see it, right? It's just that they move in different percentages, type of moves and stuff. And Oklo definitely, because that one drop there was like 34%, Palantir dropped like 12%. But if you go to the 1 day, you can see today, Oklo's up 13%, Palantir and HIMS both up. You go to 5 day, Palantir's taking the lead there. But they're moving in kind of the same direction. These are very popular retail stocks. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. And so you can see they're doing well. I just find it fascinating. They all are moving in the same thing, same direction, excuse me, when they go up and stuff. Let me know if you're playing the other two. Now, Apple, of course, this one is back up in this channel. They started talking about doing humanoids and androids and all this other stuff for AI. And so, of course, it's Apple. So they did fill this gap right here. We got to see if we can get above 236.32 to continue it, but it is back up in this channel. If we go to the 4 hour and go to extended trading hours, I'm going to mark out a level because you notice this is usually happening in extended trading hours, but that level right there, 226.77. Going to mark that out because so far it is held on multiple occasions now, and they just don't want to seem to drop it beneath it. So we'll end up putting a mark on that one. So if we come back down, we'll see if we hold again, or we finally just starting to head back up on Apple. Because again, they've been way behind when it comes to AI and everything else. And now all of a sudden they're announcing all this stuff, but it's in the infancy. I mean, they just talked about that today, and it was like they have no clue what they're going to do. Hopefully it works out better than their little headset things or whatever that nobody wanted. Now Upstart, huge move, and up 35% at one point in time. And again, it's still down 77% even after this huge move, which is crazy to think this thing was going for like $420 at one point in time. But when you look at the weekly chart, if you want to know if the upside continues, where it keeps going, just follow the weekly levels right there. You can pretty much see them. And so again, big gap up. We'll see if it comes back down and touches that trend line or not to get a higher and low on it before it starts to move back up. And if it does start to move back up, if we break this level and start to go, again, just pull out on your weekly chart and you can see the levels, because this is what it did last time. As it's come up, it's just followed these weekly levels, got rejections at them, things of that nature. And so right there around like 96.09, and then right there around 125, I believe it is, just draw it. We'll put some lines right here. We'll move this one up right there. And so that's the next level you're looking at if it does continue to move up. And so we'll see if it gets rejected there or not. It's usually what's been happening on this thing. It comes up, it gets rejected, comes down, and it has these big, gigantic moves. And so we'll see what happens. Congratulations if you're in that one. Now, talking about more earnings coming up tomorrow here. You got Datadog, John Deere, Crocs, Duke Energy, PG&E, Coinbase, Twilio, DraftKings, Applied Materials, Airbnb, Palo Alto, Roku, and Wynn. Woo! So loaded. And then, of course, we got core PPI, PPI month over month, and then unemployment claims. The 30-year bond action is usually nothing, so I wouldn't even worry about that at all. And so buckle up for another fun one, guys. I'll be here to report everything that happens. So please hit the like and subscribe button on your way out. Think about signing up for the membership. Less than McDonald's combo, and that's everything you get with it. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.